Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Wanderer's Lantern. This is episode 2, The Other Shoe. I'm Roxanne, a psychotherapy student headed for my practicum this autumn, and I love all things mystical, especially the symbolism of tarot and astrology. It's so much fun. I am going to put my phone on airplane mode. I don't want to be disturbed. So yeah, I love the symbolism of tarot and astrology. I find it so much fun. I'm not a seer. I don't have that gift. I don't do readings, but I am familiar with the interpretations and I love the symbolism. Have you got your gear? Let me get set up. I was trying to create cozy lighting, and listen, this camera needs bright fluorescent overhead lighting, so I'm sorry. But it's okay. We'll get there. We'll get there. All right. I did not bring my tea. I do have a candle, however. Shall we get cozy? Last episode, I wanted to explore what happens when our emotions explode outwards. Fast, impulsive, anxious. And I did it through the lens of Lorelai Gilmore from the show The Gilmore Girls. This week, I want to slow that moment down. Let's take a look at what's happening there. Most of us get triggered and just react. It's stronger than we are. Well, imagine being able to take that split second of your subconscious and slowing it down frame by frame to run through all the years of your lived experience so that you can review all of your interpretations that formed these big defensive reactions. Have you watched The Bear? Oh, it's so good. It's really good. Quality. It's super hard not to fall in love with these characters. The show is centered around Carmen, or Carmy, Berzatto. He's a celebrated chef and the youngest brother in a family of 3 very memorable siblings. And they're the children of the world's prime example of maternal lability, Donna Berzatto. So when I say lability, I mean emotional instability. To understand Carmen, you have to look past his Michelin stars and the screaming kitchens. Instead, you need to look at the wreckage of what he's been running from. The series takes off when Carmen returns home after the death of his elder brother, Mikey. Mikey leaves him his local sandwich shop called The Beef. It's loved, but it's about to go belly up. It comes complete with staff that are like family and a lot of black mold. So up to this point, Carmen's been working internationally under some of the best reputed chefs. And he always had this idea of turning his brother's sandwich shop into a high-end eatery, one that they could run together, turning the beef into the bear. Carmy's rise in the culinary world hasn't just been about a passion for food. He has trauma, but it's not big trauma. It's lots of little traumas that built up over the years, constant, daily, unstable, up and down mom energy. So he uses the intense focus and pressure of professional cuisine to try to suppress his traumatic memories. The perfectionism of haute cuisine resonates with what I think is his Virgo sun energy. And I think he harnesses that to drown out maybe his Scorpio moon. But outwardly, he gives the impression of, I think, a Capricorn rising, because he seeks out these highly structured environments of professional cuisine, and it's all to hide his inner chaos. So he's curated this veneer of successful self-mastery with a Michelin star pedigree, and now runs his own kitchen with the same Saturnian level of restriction and control. If anyone else out there is more fluent in astro talk, I would love to hear your take on it. Because, like, I'm not fluent. I'm just familiar. He climbs the ranks of the fine dining world, and he's trying to create this state of hyperfocus so that he can lose himself in the work. It's his get around from the rush of flashbacks that bombard him every time he's triggered. Before all of this, he left his hometown of Chicago and went to New York. And there, he was under the mentorship of Chef David Fields. This guy weaponized perfection. And he psychologically crushed Carmy to the point of giving the guy panic attacks and ulcers. And as the series goes on, we also get more pieces of the Mikey puzzle, little glimpses of how Carmy's ascent to excellence and fame coincide with Mikey's descent into feelings of failure and shame. In season 2, there's a pivotal episode about a Berzatto Christmas dinner. I think this one's for the history books, honestly. If you had to watch just one episode of the entire series, please let it be this one. It's a flashback of a Christmas dinner from when Mikey was still alive. We see the tight bonds between the 3 siblings, Carmy, Natalie, Mikey. And we see the bonds that they have with their cousins and the cousin spouses. There's lots of love in that family. And it's loud, with relentless ribbing and teasing. But what's impossible to miss is the underlying apprehension everyone is feeling about Donna, the matriarch. The tense sideways glances, the constant questions of asking her if she's okay, if she needs help with cooking. But she's shooing everyone out of the way because she's got it. Doesn't need any help. No, I'm fine. I've got it. But she starts to get annoyed with all the "are you okays?" and things start to escalate. So the kitchen clears out and Carmy's alone with his mom. And she's starting to spiral with every ding of her cooking timers. She picks this moment to get into how unreachable he's been and how hard it was to convince him to come home just for this one supper. While that's happening in the kitchen, Mikey's starting to butt heads with Uncle Lee, their dad's former business partner, and we think Donna's on-again, off-again lover. As Mikey's passing his threshold of patience with Lee because Lee won't stop putting him down. He's just a barrage of criticism and insults. Everyone there is on tenterhooks. I'm not talking walking on eggshells. I'm talking about the anxiety of hanging on to a cliffside by your nails because they know something big is building and it's a fast plunge off that cliffside into an abyss of chaos and pain. All they want to do is enjoy being together for this Christmas dinner. As you can imagine, it does explode into chaos. First, when Donna comes to sit at the table. So now she's switched on a dime from being jovial and affectionately smothering to angry, abandoned, unloved mom. No thanks to all the alcohol she's been sipping in the kitchen. So she has her meltdown and leaves everyone stunned as she runs out of the frame. Only for Lee to drop one more unwelcomed comment that sets Mikey off. And the whole room erupts into a giant wrestling match. I'm talking shouts and yelling and limbs flailing. But in the midst of all that aggression, Donna does something catastrophic that leaves Carmy emotionally scarred. We see him speechless, frozen, in shock. I'm not going to say what in case you want to watch it, which I sincerely hope you do, just for the masterful storytelling in that episode. It's its own short film. You can watch it without knowing anything about any of the characters and still get taken in. So that dinner helps set the baseline for how Carmy handles intimacy. As season 2 plays out, we see Carmy reconnecting with Claire, his high school sweetheart. or maybe his childhood sweetheart. Anyways, he's falling hard for her. But this is happening while he's trying to get the restaurant ready. There's a moment he tells Claire how happy he is with her, but that he's waiting for the other shoe to drop. Claire keeps telling him, sometimes there's only one shoe. But for him, getting that devoted affection comes at a cost. It comes with a fast mood swing that could be hostile or unprovoked. Also, being in love has suddenly made him lose his edge. He's relaxed. He's, laissez-faire. He's not answering his calls as quickly. He's not stressed. He's not showing up for his team. He's letting things slide. Now we're at the end of season 2, and it's the opening of The Bear. Carmy starts to spiral. Outwardly, he's shouting at his staff. Inwardly, we're seeing flashes of traumatic memories bombarding him, of Donna freaking out at Christmas dinner, of all the horrible things Chef Fields said to him just to tear him down. But those are then contrasted with these beautiful flashes of Claire telling him how loved he is, how much she believes in him. And he's losing himself in that rush of thoughts. So with all the chaos and pressure of his opening night, he gets locked in his walk-in freezer. Why? Because it's been broken, and he kept missing his chances to get it fixed because he's been with Claire instead of taking care of business. One of his staff comes to knock on the freezer door to ask him if he's okay. And he starts to talk. He's confiding in her. He's thinking out loud, and he's beating himself up for dropping the ball. He's saying how he can't be in a relationship with Claire and do what he needs to for a successful restaurant. He can't be who he is with Claire and still be the best chef. But what he doesn't know is that his employee, who's been listening to him, had to go. But Claire came in, since she was already there for the opening, and then heard he was locked in the damn freezer. So now she's behind the door. She's trying to talk to him, but he can't hear her over his own talking. She hears him speaking out his thought spiral. And just as he hits the bottom of it, he laments how their relationship has ruined his opening, how it's been bullshit and a waste of time, that not being in control of everything feels much worse than all the good he felt with Claire. I mean, I'd take that personally. So she speaks up to say she didn't know he felt that way and that she's sorry. And she pretty much leaves with her heart and her pride slipping through her fingers. Meanwhile, he's still stuck in the freezer and he can't stop her. Of course, he tries to call her. She doesn't pick up. So now all he can do is keep replaying a message that she left earlier, telling him that she loves him. It's wrenching to watch. If I had to pick one tarot archetype right now to represent the pattern Carmen needs to break in this series, it's the moon. The moon is a card that represents the subconscious, what rises from underneath, unfiltered, unprocessed, and uncontained. Yes, it's our intuition, but the moon card can also represent illusion, distortion, because under the moon, things aren't always what they seem. At its highest expression, the moon's lesson is to guide you to trust your instincts, sit with what's surfacing, explore your fears, your memories, your emotional world, but without immediately trying to fix or control it. It's the card of creativity as well, artistry, but also reflective, intuitive shadow work. Carmy's not operating at the highest expression. He's at the lowest expression of the moon. And that's where fear is running the system. And past painful experiences are behind the wheel. So instead of trusting his intuition, he disconnects from it, buries it. We see this all over the place. He suppresses the thoughts and the feelings. He avoids the conversations that need to be had, and he tries to bury it under perfectionism and work achievements. The moon card warns us how that pattern creates distortion. Because the more you suppress what's underneath, the more it's going to come out sideways, whether it's as anxiety, control, self-sabotage. It's even a card that represents addiction and mental unwellness. So like the way Carmy waits for that other shoe to drop, but it doesn't, he unconsciously drops it himself. The moon also represents emotional overwhelm. And that's the core of it. Carmy isn't calm, he's contained. And there's a difference. When those emotions finally break through, like they did in the freezer scene, they don't emerge cleanly. They come out distorted, untrue. The illusion for Carmy is believing he can't have love and be good at his work. That Claire's a distraction or a weakness that destabilizes him and makes him unreliable. But that's not truth. It's not even his truth. It's fear. It's his subconscious trying to protect him based on everything he learned growing up. How deep affection comes at a cost. The lesson of the moon demands to face what's coming up from underneath, letting it be there, getting curious about it. That's when we begin to see the pivot in Carmy's story. When he allows himself to face the people he's been hiding from and all the feelings that come with that. So when Claire overhears him and walks away, he fractures. Then in season 3, he spirals into his worst instincts. He treats his kitchen like a dictatorship. He runs his staff into the ground just to numb his grief. Everyone is miserable. And you know what? The restaurant reviews are as up and down as the relationship dynamics in the kitchen. Okay. So here's where things begin to shift. At the end of season 3, Carmy gets to confront Chef Fields. He tells him how much anxiety and anguish he suffered because of how Fields treated him. He demands to know why Fields felt the need to crush him so badly. Fields' response is cold and unrepentant. He basically tells Carmy he gave him greatness. He turned him from an okay chef to a great one. But this brings Carmy an aha moment. It wasn't personal. It was a means to an end. It wasn't the truth. And in his own cold, abusive, maybe sociopathic way, Chef Fields just called Carmen great. He just called him a great chef. It throws quite the wrench in Carmy's beliefs about himself. So now we're in season 4. Carmen sort of released Chef Fields. And he wants to try to fix things with Claire, but she needs time. Another big turning point happens for Carmy. And this time it's at a family wedding. Everyone Carmy doesn't want to see is there. So he's hiding in the kitchen, especially to avoid his mom. But you know who finds him? Uncle Lee. The same Uncle Lee who treated his brother Mikey horribly at that infamous Christmas dinner. But Lee does something unexpected. He tells Carmen that he saw him at Mikey's funeral. No one else saw Carmen there. They all thought he didn't make it. He basically showed up, poked his head in, and left. Didn't want to be there. But Lee saw him. I mean, really saw him. He says he knows why Carmy walked out of Mikey's funeral. That it was out of shame. The shame of being absent, of selfishly pursuing his own goals. But that there was actually nothing to be ashamed of. That Mikey was proud of him. That he, Lee, and Mikey actually patched things up before the end. And that Donna, the mom, was genuinely, quietly doing the work to heal. If I stick with the moon archetype here, this is the moment that breaks the illusion Carmy's been under. It unveils the truth that he's been distorting. Carmen took a risk with Chef Fields. He took another risk with Claire, now with Uncle Lee. So the next huge step is with his mom, Donna. All these other risks have built up a kind of cushion for his confidence. So after that wedding, he goes to the house to bring his mom a photo album, and she has the chance to tell him she's been working on her sobriety, that she's aware of the damage she's done. He offers to cook for her. It's nurturing. It's loving. It's creating safety. Donna apologizes for her years of unstable behavior. And then when Carmen leaves her house, he goes to the restaurant to talk to his staff for even more healing. And he concludes that he needs to stop using the kitchen as a way to escape his trauma. Not in so many words, but you have to watch it. Watch it and you'll see. And now season 5 just kicked off and it's supposed to be the end of the series. It just started on Wednesday. So I guess we'll see how things play out. Okay. We stretch. We take a deep breath. We shake this off. In the same way that Carmen and the rest of the gang needed to renovate the restaurant, revamp the menu, change the name to The Bear, Carmen has to do the same thing with his spirit. I think the bear is supposed to be a metaphor for Carmen's emotional metamorphosis. Externally, the restaurant looks perfect. It has all the trimmings for the best rewards a restaurant can bring. But inside, there's still work to do, just like Carmy. He's got his Michelin stars. He's got his reputation. He's featured in so many articles. He's being touted as one of the world's best chefs. But inside, there's still work to do. In my last episode, I introduced emotionally focused therapy for Lorelai, and it applies here as well. These two characters share quite a bit in common. They both have a mother wound and attachment challenges, but where Lorelai's really fast knee-jerk reactions are external, Carmen's reactions come with like an internal point of view. So the audience can see what's going through his head to make him behave that way. Again, it's not random behavior. It's patterned. And I have to say, hats off to the writers. Like, this feels a little too lived, you know, like it's a bit personal the way these characters were written. Like, it's either that or they spent their life observing someone who was like this, or had the DSM-5 by their laptop as they were creating. You know what I mean? Like, they nailed it. They nailed it so perfectly. It's patterned behavior, and it's protective. So we can see how he struggles to reconcile. How could all of this divergent information about himself be true simultaneously? What is safe to believe? Which beliefs fit his narrative? Which beliefs will help him stay protected? For the average person, this doesn't happen as a frame by frame where you can see and hear who said what and what happened when. No, it's shoved away in a dark, musty box that I'm sure stinks and has moths. You don't need to remember the flashes because you've already learned the protective pattern. So you feel it in your body. That tightness in your chest, maybe, or the fluttering in your tummy, maybe the tension in your jaw. Why are your shoulders so tight? Is your heart beating fast? Are you having an inflammation flare up? Do you feel like crying? And you can't put your finger on why. Are you finding yourself suddenly yelling about something small? Are you feeling seething anger? Maybe things are going well and you're suddenly scared. You want to create distance. Maybe you're ghosting or cocooning. Maybe you're backtracking what you said yesterday, because today you've changed your mind, but you're not sure why. So this can emerge in countless different ways. And I want to add, any of these behaviors could be symptomatic of something else. They could be emerging for good reason. In EFT, we understand that when people struggle in relationships, it's not because they don't care. There's something about attachment that feels unsafe. So Lorelai felt that being in a relationship would suffocate her. It wouldn't allow her to be her authentic self. Carmen, however, I think, appears to feel two things. On the one hand, he doesn't trust himself with connection. And on the other hand, he doesn't trust connection. His programming is that love is not a sanctuary. It's unsafe and unpredictable. To feel genuine love for him needs to come with like control, to be guarded, because an attack could be imminent. And that attack could be unprovoked or hard to predict. So when that vulnerability is activated, he collapses inwards. Now, quick review. EFT talks about secondary and primary emotions. The secondary emotions show up first, and they're there to protect the primary emotions. Secondary emotions would be frustration, anger, control, withdrawal, shutting down, being rigid. And the primary emotions beneath that revolve around fears of something that causes pain, something emotional that causes pain. Hence the built-up defensive response. Carmy says he's waiting for the other shoe to drop with Claire, but he also says Claire is peace, and he doesn't know what to do with that. Can he trust himself with peace? Is he enough? Does he deserve peace? Allowing for himself to learn to trust peace and to trust a connection with Claire means he could be caught off guard with people in his life who aren't safe to love. So his coping mechanisms until now have centered around control, perfectionism, and overfunctioning. And it's won him accolades in his career. But that's when all he had to do was focus on the food. But it has no place in relationships, especially romantic, loving, safe relationships. The whole thing feels destabilizing. It also becomes a problem when he has to run his own kitchen and has no guardrails. He's the one in charge, right? Well, he can't be controlling and a perfectionist and still be liked by his staff. So now all of his relationships are at stake. Letting his guard down requires him to be known, to be consistent, but to also be emotionally available. In that moment when he's in the freezer, he's not making a calm, rational decision about his priorities. His nervous system is going haywire, trying to protect him. It believes that illusion of needing control is necessary for survival. But when he acted from that place of self-protection, he created the exact outcome he feared. Losing Claire, and might I add, he just about lost the restaurant too. So the illusion gets reinforced. An EFT perspective says that it's not because he's broken, it's because his system learned very early on that emotional intensity wasn't safe. It needed to be managed and contained. So instead of developing safety within the connection, he developed safety outside of it through performance, achievement, independence, distance. Toward the end of his story, we see something really important. Not that he becomes expressive. Oh my God. I swear, I don't think I've ever seen a lead character with so few lines. Am I the only one who thinks this way? The guy doesn't talk. I keep expecting Everybody else talks all over him. The only time we really hear him talk is when he's trying to yell over somebody else. But he starts to do the same thing as our Lorelei. He begins to stay put. He stops avoiding or hiding or running away from the people and the conversations that make him uncomfortable. He stops talking over others too, and he starts listening and responding. And that's a big one. You want to build connection? You gotta stop talking over others. By having those conversations and those confrontations, then he starts to challenge the lies that he believes about himself. And that makes him risk letting those beliefs go. So with those beliefs out of the way, he's making space to practice a new relationship behavior, one that's going to keep the connection and maintain the bond, and it's going to produce new beliefs. In EFT, that's everything. Healing doesn't come from understanding your pattern. It's experiential. You have to have a different emotional experience from within a relationship and then do it enough times that it replaces your old pattern and therefore replaces your old beliefs. So some questions for you this time, my fellow wanderers. How do you express your overwhelm? Do you run, spiral? Do you lash out to create distance and release the anxiety? Do you tighten control? What will you see if you pause long enough to take a look at what's underneath? If you have a partner, are they ready to do the same? Will they come along with you to create a new experience from within your relationship? Are they open to creating a new, more functional pattern too? And if you've been listening and thinking, okay, I see the pattern, I can see where it comes from, well, there's usually another question right behind it. Why do I keep ending up here? Why do I keep finding myself in the same dynamic? That's where we're headed in the next episode. Understanding why your nervous system keeps steering you towards the same emotional setup. Same kind of relationships, conflicts, and challenges. And that's where the deeper shift begins. Until then, see what patterns show up this week. No need to solve or change them, just observe. If you like this content and would like more, please subscribe to my Substack so you can get episodes and articles right to your inbox. Thank you so much for tuning in. May your tea stay warm, your heart stay open, and your nervous system take the evening off.